welcome back to the channel. I am once again reporting live from my desk / my office. I feel like this is just going to be a very common background scene as I move into the final year of my dissertation, just generally because a lot of my work does get done here. It is Sunday, July 12th. Usually I co-work with some PhD folks on Sundays at 11. Today, neither of them can make it, so I am on my own and wouldn't you know, I haven't started working yet. So I thought it might be nice / helpful for me to vlog a little bit because in my last video, I finished my transcription, very exciting. And now I think I have found myself in a little bit of a, not really rut necessarily, but I found it hard to move to the next phase, which is data analysis. And so today I'm hoping to really lay the groundwork, set my plan for how I'm going to approach this, because I do, as I've previously mentioned, I do need data analysis to move relatively quickly. So I think if I have a good plan in place, my hope is that it will move a little bit more quickly than if I didn't have a plan in place. I can't guarantee, obviously, that it'll go as fast as I wanted to. But the one thing I can control is making sure my foundation is good. As a warning, I do think this vlog is going to be a little bit chattier because this is kind of me thinking through my thoughts. So today I already wrote out my kind of to-do list in my little notebook, and I started adding my stickers more just to like make it a little bit more fun and actually use stickers that I buy or receive. But my goal for today is to work for around 2 hours. I feel like I can commit to at least that. The overarching plan is to get organized for my analysis phase. And what I think I need to do is reread or just revisit my quant chapter. I also want to reread my proposal and really see what I was planning, what I was doing. And then I think I'm going to start outlining or just highlighting and putting together a document for what my questions and focus are going to be as I do my initial read through for my interviews. I guess it might be helpful to explain my process or like my analysis process. I'm going to start by reading the transcripts that I did and just going through, highlighting. I'm not really putting pressure on myself to come up with codes yet, but just do an initial read through, mark up things that are standing out to me, things that are interesting. And then I'm going to go in and actually take a look and see what I've highlighted. And then from that, come up with my codes. I'm going to define what the codes are and then actually start coding and refining everything. My plan is only to do one round of coding. However, I'm also kind of prepared to have to go back and recode some things just as I go throughout the process. One of my committee members, when I met with them, when I was talking about how does this process, I was like, what do you recommend? Like, what do you recommend I do for this process? And she was also saying that, you know, you're going to have three main things that three kind of like entry points, I guess, or things that you're looking out for in your interviews. Because it's mixed methods, I have not only what the literature says, so things from like the literature that I should be looking out for. I have my data / findings from my quantitative chapter that did inform some of the questions in this qualitative chapter. So be kind of on the lookout for some of the similar themes, findings from my quantitative chapter. And then there's also just kind of the other pieces that emerge from the interviews that I wasn't necessarily thinking or looking for, but will inevitably come up. So today, that's the plan. And then maybe tomorrow I can start actually doing the read-throughs. Anyway, let's get to PhD work. Actually, one other thing I should say is a while ago, early in my PhD program, I got a book award and I bought a bunch of books. Not super strategically, but one of the books that I bought was this Mixed Methods Research Design. It's a Sage handbook, and it was actually quite expensive. And of course I managed to get water on it. Wow. Ooh. Yikes. Okay, love that for me. That's okay. It provides a little bit more character to the book. And now especially I won't feel bad about writing in it. But I think I might also just look through this as well and do a little refresher on actually mixing methods and kind of like the integration portion of mixing methods. So it's about 1:30. I think I'm at a good stopping point for now. This was very helpful. I didn't start any analysis or anything like that, but I got myself organized, which was the goal. So I reread, skimmed my dissertation proposal to just see what I had written. Also revisiting my kind of like overarching research questions is always helpful. And then I went back and reread parts, mostly skimmed because I didn't read the literature review or anything, but I reread my quantitative chapter, which was very helpful. So I went in to my Google Sheets right here and I wrote out my findings again, just to remind myself, what were the results? What were some of the things I wrote in my discussion section that I wanted to talk about in my interviews, or kind of concepts that I wanted to explore further in my interviews. Highlighted both the findings and then also what I wanted to explore in my qualitative interviews. So then after I read through everything, I separated it out into the key focus areas that emerged from the literature, which also a lot of those are similar to what emerged from my quant chapter findings. So I just wrote out the things that came out from my quantitative chapter that I want to explore in the qualitative portion. So some of those topics are, Asian American linked fate, feelings of linked fate, discrepancies in Asian subgroups of who feels linked fate with Asian Americans, feelings of minority linked fate, people of color ID, women of color ID, geography, things like that. And then finally, I went through and just kind of brain dumped into this document things that I have come up and that I've been really thinking about as I've been doing my transcription. As much as I disliked the transcription process, it has been really good for just familiarizing myself with the data. I feel like having this first pass at everything has at least helped me start to think about what are some of the potential themes that I have, what are some of the pieces I want to go back and really focus on. And there are actually quite a few things that emerged from the interviews. Of course, naturally, some of them are connected to some of the existing questions around linked fate, Asian ID, geography, but some of these things were not initial questions or areas of focus that I really had for my quantitative chapter, which has been really interesting. For example, being mixed race or being multi-ethnic, and then also thinking about within that, what are some of the similarities and differences between people who are Asian and white and Asian and Black, being adopted, being an adoptee, someone's immigration story. So really thinking about what brought someone to the United States. I think in the quantitative data, a lot of that really focused on where are you coming from, maybe how long you had been in the United States. But I think something that emerged from the interviews was really around what was the reason you came to the United States, and that having an impact on the responses. So differences, just for example, in someone who came here to pursue higher education versus someone who came here as a refugee. Interestingly, even though class wasn't significant in my quantitative analysis, class did get brought up quite frequently in my interviews. So that's something that I'll be talking about. Also in general, just concepts around like anti-Blackness, colorism, the model minority myth, and also just a general dislike of labels and this kind of tension between recognizing the purpose that they serve, recognizing that they maybe fall into these labels or categories, but also really strongly disliking the use of labels and not necessarily identifying with a lot of these labels. So those are just a few of the initial things that have come up from my transcription. There's actually quite a bit more, but that was very helpful. So I did that. And then I did an initial reading from the Mixed Methods Research Design book. I also flagged some articles that I actually want to go back and read in that book. So let me just share. So some of the ones that I really starred, and actually this is making me think about one of the other things I really want to do as well is on my Substack, start writing a little bit more, this kind of connected to my Instagram as I enter the final year of my program, really revisiting some of my tips and maybe just thoughts on certain elements of this whole PhD process now that I'm a final year student. But one of the things I do want to write about is why I'm doing mixed methods research and why mixed methods research is really important to me. Some of the pieces that I flagged here in terms of articles I want to go back and actually read. So the first one is by Cresswell and Plano Clark. They're kind of very well known in the mixed methods research community, the people. But we have Revisiting Mixed Methods Research Designs 20 years later. Also starred Exploring Interlocking Relationships of Race, Gender, and Class with an Intersectionality Informed Mixed Methods Research Design Framework by Jenny Douglas. I think this section in general will be really good, and it also speaks to, again, why I'm doing mixed methods research. But a lot of this is around moving past the dichotomy of quant and qual and really bringing them together. I was also interested in beyond the joint display and mixed methods convergent designs, a case-oriented merged analysis, culturally responsive mixed methods evaluation design, leveraging mixed methods community-based participatory research and diverse social and cultural contexts to advance health equity, and then lastly, opportunities and challenges for a transdisciplinary mixed methods research future. So those are just a few of the articles that I starred. There's a couple others because I had put together a folder on this back when I had an assignment for my class in my PhD program on mixed methods research. And so I might go and revisit those because a lot of those are around CRT and mixed methods research, feminist and mixed methods research. So I want to maybe also just revisit that, do a little bit of a refresher as well. So that was really helpful. I'm looking forward to just having kind of a reading day, I think, coming up soon. And then on my reading day, I think I'm also going to revisit the article, like Braun and Clark's article on thematic analysis and how to actually do that, because that is what I'll be doing for my interview kind of qualitative analysis. And also just shout out to Temitope for reminding me that that existed. Like, I know that that sounds a bit silly, but just kind of returning to that and also talking with her about it because she's also using thematic analysis in her dissertation research. So I think I need to definitely do a refresher. And then also there's another article that I found as well, Qualitative Thematic Analysis in Mixed Methods Study, Guidelines and Consideration for Integration. So again, because my study is mixed methods, I'm gonna read that as well. Other things that kind of came up while I was thinking about this were just like, am I doing any sort of chi-square testing or any sort of like statistical testing on my interviews? I originally hadn't really planned on doing any of that, but I actually had a friend who did that with her interviews. And I don't know. I feel a bit of a resistance to trying to use statistical methods on interviews. One, because I don't think I have enough interviews to really do that necessarily. But on the other hand, I also think it's just the whole point of doing mixed methods research and having qualitative and quantitative is that, you know, it's not that I'm trying to like apply quantitative methods to my qualitative research, if that makes any sense. You know, they have fundamentally different goals. And so I think like that's the whole point of doing mixed methods, that you are utilizing both those methods results in a stronger kind of research design and analysis and, you know, project than just doing one or the other. And so I'm kind of a bit like, I don't know about that. I might talk to my committee to see what they think about that. But that was just something else that popped up. And then I did a really big deep dive into in vivo versus Atlas TI and just trying to think about which one I wanted to use, because I do have a license for in vivo that I obtained through some research funding. And my university just gives us an Atlas TI, you know, we can use it for free. After reading a decent amount and hearing just some like recommendations from people, I think I'm gonna go with Atlas TI. All in all, I think very productive in terms of just thinking and framing. So I think I'm gonna stop there. Tomorrow, I'll probably do some of the reading and then maybe start my initial read through for one interview. That feels like a very achievable goal tomorrow, but we'll see. I'm gonna stop here. I know this part at least was very chatty, kind of like thinking through my research process. So please tell me if this is interesting. I feel like sometimes I've gotten the feedback, like not feedback, but just kind of people say like, oh, you don't like really talk as much about your research, you know, online. And there's a variety of reasons of why that is, but I also just don't know like if it's interesting. Like, I obviously think it's interesting because it's my dissertation, but I just don't know if that's interesting. And if like really the nitty gritty details beyond just like talking about general processes or just showing you like what my life has been like doing my PhD, I just don't know. Like, so please tell me, like, do you think this is interesting? Is it a bit too like in the weeds? I don't know. I'm just curious what you all think. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat some lunch and have some fun free time now. Maybe do some editing for my previous video for my YouTube and plan out some Substack stuff and Instagram stuff. Then I did also download some iPad games. So maybe I'll play some iPad games. We'll see. And then hopefully go on a run later. Not too much to do because I cleaned yesterday. Wow. And I'm caught up on work. I don't know. It's great. Now we can just relax. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna go do that and check back in tomorrow. So after my productive planning day, I honestly didn't do any PhD work for a couple of weeks because I traveled to the Seattle area to see my parents. I did my best to stay in a routine with PhD work during this time, but it was hard.
Okay, go.
I'm a firm believer that you can do everything you want to do, but you cannot do all of those things at the same time, all of the time. And my mom is currently going through some treatment, so at this point, most of my focus went to being present with my parents, helping out where I could around the house, and getting my 9 to 5 and freelance work taken care of. I was even able to squeeze in some workout classes, but PhD work just kind of fell off my plate for a little bit, and that's okay. So, as you may be able to guess, I did not end up meeting my goal of finishing my initial read-through for my first interview on that day. Tragic, dishonor on me and my entire family. That said, I think this trip and time in general really did remind me that I need to be more realistic with myself. I knew that I was probably going to be pretty jet lagged when I got back from my trip, so I spent the rest of my time hanging out with one of my friends, shout out Liz, and doing some more fun activities with my parents, like visiting the Museum of Glass, which I highly recommend, by the way. However, very proud to end the vlog on a high note as I finally did finish reading through my first interview, actually first couple of interviews, on the plane ride to Korea. Listen, a win is a win, and I will never regret spending more time with my loved ones.